when either a man or a woman is applying for a job, a woman feels she has to meet 100% of the criteria, while men will apply for jobs after meeting about 60%. So there's an issue here around self-confidence. The other thing that was interesting about the data is that women tend to screen themselves out of the conversation. And even when they apply for the jobs, they feel they have 100% of the competencies. They're actually applying for 20% fewer jobs than men. And they're also more hesitant to ask for a referral from somebody they know in the company.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women, where we talk about challenges senior female leaders face in being happy and successful at work. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah E. Brown. My guest today is Lisha Schmidt. She is a seasoned coach and leadership development expert and is keenly interested in what fosters and what hinders personal and professional change and transition. Her primary area of practice is in supporting senior leaders in speaking truth and acting with courage as they craft compelling, powerful organizational cultures. In addition to her master's degree in organizational change, Lisha is a certified professional coach and a skillful facilitator of leadership development and organizational culture transformation. She is currently collaborating on a soon-to-be-released podcast on diversity and inclusion and belonging, and it's going to be called Different People. Welcome, Lisha. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, Sarah, what a treat. Thank you for the invitation. And listen, before we start, I just want to recognize the impact that you have in your work, how you promote women in business, and the conversations that you're having in your podcast. I'm grateful to be included in the community that you're building.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much for that. So tell me, what is the biggest challenge you help female leaders face in business today?
Yeah, what a great question. So as you noted, I work in the fields of organizational culture change and leadership development. Now, here's what I love. Women everywhere are breaking glass ceilings like never before. I mean, look, we now have in the United States a vice president, Kamala Harris. In New Mexico, in the last year, became the first state to elect all women of color to its House delegation. I live in Canada, and here our deputy prime minister is a woman. Women everywhere are coming into positions of considerable power. Yet, this is somehow still seen as an anomaly. Now, I'm struck by the anecdote that when Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was asked how many women should sit on the Supreme Court, and she said all 9, her answer was met with shock. So her reply was, well, there've been 9 men, and no one's ever raised a question about that. So this is where I start, right? There's in spite of all the incredible gains, there's still bias against women as leaders. And yet, if you look at countries that have handled the pandemic crisis the most effectively, New Zealand, Germany, Iceland, these are all countries led by women who followed the science, and they understood that acting quickly and thoroughly and broadly was a really good strategy. So to get to your question, I just want to add something before I answer it. It is a known fact that women provide the kind of leadership that employees want. Recently, a study came out of the Harvard Business Review that said that based on their data, employees want leaders who can pivot, who can learn new skills, who are focused on employee development, who are honest, have integrity, sensitive, understanding the stress and anxiety and frustration people are feeling, particularly in the pandemic. And their analysis shows that these are traits more often associated and displayed by women who are in leadership positions. And these are statistically significant margins. So given all that, the biggest challenge that women face has actually nothing to do with women themselves or ourselves. It's the world that we live in. It's the world that has entrenched ideas about what women can and can't do, say, or be. Still, in 2021, We're either too assertive or not assertive enough, too mouthy, too meek, too friendly, not friendly enough. You get the idea. So what I do is I help women be thoughtful and strategic about how they will show up, who they want to be, and so that they're making choices aligned with values and the type of behaviors that are powerful around relationships and around being visionary to something that's meaningful and purposeful. Because in my view, leadership is profoundly an act of clarity and kindness. And women have the ability to be both firm in their decision making and kind in the implementation.
Wow. And what do you see as the biggest mistakes your clients make before working with you?
Well, I can name a couple. I would say one of the biggest challenges my coaching clients face is self-doubt around strengths, competencies, experience, and capabilities. And here's a common situation, and this has quite a bit of data behind it. In 2019, LinkedIn, we know is the professional social media application website, studied how people use their job posting site. Now, both genders browse jobs similarly, but they apply to them differently. So what they discovered in their research that shows that when either a man or a woman is applying for a job, a woman feels she has to meet 100% of the criteria, while men will apply for jobs after meeting about 60%. So there's an issue here around self-confidence. The other thing that was interesting about the data is that women tend to screen themselves out of the conversation. And even when they apply for the jobs, they feel they have 100% of the competencies. They're actually applying for 20% fewer jobs than men. And they're also more hesitant to ask for a referral from somebody they know in the company. So that's the first one. That's a challenge that women often, or a mistake that women might make in terms of looking for work. The other one is really related to the last piece I said about being hesitant to ask for a referral. We are not great at asking for help. Women continue to labor under the misconception that being competent, hardworking, humble, helpful, present, available is the path to being recognized and promoted. We absolutely need to cultivate all those traits, but we also need to reach out and support one another. So many of us are so used to going it alone, and against incredible odds, we're succeeding, but we don't have to carry the weight alone.
Got it. So what's the number one free and actionable tip you can give my audience to help them begin to address this challenge now?
Yeah, listen, it's simple and it's difficult, and it's really about asking for help. Here are some thoughts I have on this. I recently was called by a male colleague who asked me to nominate him for a very prestigious award, and I was happy to do it for him. But it occurred to me that none of my female colleagues and friends had ever asked me to do this. So the one free and actionable tip is have your friends and colleagues nominate you for awards or any kind of form of recognition. There are many, many ways to be recognized, either in your organization, community organizations, within your profession. Tell your friends and colleagues you need and want their help. And it could be about promoting your work or succeeding with a project you've never tried before that someone you know has some experience. So a couple of examples. Ask your accountant friend that you might be going for walks with for tax advice. Ask your friend who works in human resources in a company which resumes and cover letters get the most attention. If you have a friend running their own business, ask how you can help promote it. And offer what you have. We all have incredible strengths and networks that we can use to support one another. And listen, I would recommend, and I'll tell you a story about this in a second, that every woman be a part of a group. It could just be 2 or 3 or 5 that meet regularly and share your challenges, ask for support, and be generous with what you have to offer. Now, I'll give you the example. Every weekday morning, I lead a book writing accountability group for women. So we meet at 8:30, we're together for 90 minutes, we talk about what our intentions are, we ask for feedback, we offer resources, and we also use a chunk of that time to write. We protect that time. We protect it from any other intrusion. It's a part of our day that belongs to us. And we help each other protect the time, in addition to giving each other tips on working with editors, book designers, illustrators, coaches, you name it. We've seen each other cry over failures. We've seen each other beam with excitement when the successes roll in. We've helped each other get speaking gigs. We've reviewed each other's books on Amazon. So what we do in this group, and listen, every morning might be a lot for some people. Every 2 weeks would also work. But how do you bring your strengths to support other women? How can you be there for others and help each other grow? Because it's so important that we create these connections amongst ourselves and boost one another up.
Great idea. And what's a valuable free resource you can share with women to help them understand this challenge better now?
Well, my top tip would be understand your strengths. There is a website, it's been in place for quite some time. It's based on scientifically validated research on strength, and it's called the VIA Character Strength Survey. It's free, it takes about 15 minutes, and it helps you discover your greatest strengths. And the reason I start with this is that we're so quick to think that we have to build up our weaknesses when really we do so much better and we make so much more progress in all aspects of our lives if we understand our strengths and apply them. Knowing that you have strengths you can use every day helps you with your happiness, your well-being. It boosts your relationships. It gives you the resilience to manage stress and accomplish your goals. It's a powerful tool and a place to start to understand what is strong about you. And it can be found at www.viacharacter.org. That's one. The other free resource I highly recommend are the resources for women leaders at the Center for Creative Leadership. They have case studies, white papers, articles, and links to other key resources that really support women in thinking carefully about the choices that they make around their careers, how to build mentoring relationships, how to help one another. And given we often have such limited time, how to be really focused and prioritize what's most important to us. And that can be found at www.ccl.org.
Great. Lisha, what's one question that I should have asked you that will help my audience take action to address this challenge? And then would you answer the question?
Yeah, I love it. That's kind of like when you do a survey and then there's a blank box at the bottom to say anything else you have to say. So Thanks for providing this opening, Sarah. I think the question I would have asked is, what kind of regular practices can women adopt or adapt to consistently incorporate self-care into our lives? Now, this might sound like a reach after talking about leadership resources and strengths and support. But unless we ourselves are feeling resilient and that we feel that we have a sense of solidity in ourselves, it's very, very hard to bring the best of what we have into our relationships, into our work, and into our communities. And particularly in this pandemic year, we are stretched in many, many different directions, and many of us are feeling really worn out. So the first thing that I would suggest is find and keep even micro practices around self-care. Listen, taking 3 deep breaths can make a big difference in a really busy and hectic day. Walking around the block, it doesn't need to be a 3-hour walk. Literally 15 minutes can lift your spirits and get you to refocus. So I think that would be the first question. The other is to really think about what kind of magnificence, I guess I would call it, is in your life already. Practices of gratitude. Look at who around you has the kinds of strengths, the skills, traits that you wish to emulate, because I strongly believe that leadership touches more on who we long to be rather than what we need to do. So, for some people, journaling is too, it feels like a big practice. Bullet point journaling. Ask yourself what you can do in your own behavior that's not about doing more, but being more of something. Do you want to cultivate patience? Do you want to cultivate gratitude? And my last point on this, and a friend shared this with me, I thought this was so powerful, a powerful redirect or reframing, is we often have bucket lists of things we want to do, Sarah, right? Like a big trip. Of course, we can't do that during a pandemic. Things we might want to own. They're often around doing things. I would suggest to your listeners to take a bit of time to think of a being bucket list. What are the things that over the course of your life you want to cultivate in yourself, that you want to be more of? Do you want to be more present? Do you want to be more thoughtful? Do you want to be more attuned to what you need for your own self-care? Because those are the practices that are going to carry you through all the difficulties of being in a leadership position, of feeling that you're pulled in all kinds of directions, and that really are the foundation, I believe, for a fulfilling and happier life. So I guess those would be the two questions I would have added.
Terrific. Lisha, thank you so much for being with me today.
It was such a pleasure. I love being able to talk about these kinds of topics, and the fact that you create this opening for these kinds of conversations to happen is a remarkable addition to everything that we're hearing about women in leadership. So thank you, Sarah, very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening to the KTS Success Factor podcast for women. If you like what you are hearing, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. And if you would like more information on how we can help women in your organization to thrive, then go to www.sarahebrown.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, read show notes and learn more about our podcast guests, read my blog, browse through the books, or contact us for a chat. Goodbye for now.